All right, so I love what Batteries has brought to the table. So we're going to be checking out Jez 2718 versus Batteries. Jez 2718, they're going to be on that Skycraig mid-range deck. This is one of the more popular decks in this field, and up against them, we've got Batteries, and they got a spicy deck. We'll get into more about what's going on with their deck as it begins.
All right, we'll get the scoreboard up here as well, updated for everyone. Got Batteries on the top of the screen, and we've got Jez 2718 on the bottom for round one. Remember, this will be a 5-round tournament before that cut to top 8. Oh, and we got a spicy little hand cams here too. Thanks, BK. That'll help. We got the nice developer view here.
Yeah, the perks of working on the game. During our events to get a little access. And so Batteries has brought a take on Rakano aggro. I would say one of the big things going on with this deck is that they are playing with Crown Watch, Press Gang, and Imperial Loyalist. And so they're trying to get big bursts of damage by being able to have frequent access with 2 Trick Shot Ruffian, 1 cost unit that gives plus strength and health equal to your Justice influence. Unfortunately, they did have to redraw down to 6 cards, and they're up against a hand with multiple copies of Bullseye, a new removal spell from Cold Hunt. 1 cost, deal 2 damage to a unit or site, or kill an enemy relic.
And it is funny, you mentioned that Trick Shot Ruffian. Looking at Battery's deck here, which we'll take a look at in a couple minutes, it's funny because that Battlefront Dasher on the battlefield is the only mono fire card in the entire deck. Everything else is basically Justice in this deck except for that card.
Yeah, and the Battlefront Dasher is an important piece of their sort of combo aggro deck. By being able to grant charge to units, you can really set up a turn and wait for that moment. Your opponent might be shields down, thinking you have no units in play, and you can also tutor up that Battlefront Dasher. A new card from Cold Hunt with the new mechanic Contract, which allows you to get an effect now by paying with tomorrow's power.
Yeah, that is quite a powerful mechanic you've introduced there. Also powerful, you gotta like Plunk Wumpkin, one of my favorite new cards out here. Just a cute little boy and packs pretty punch too.
Oh yeah. Plunk is maybe the best primal 2-drop in the history of the game. Dural Ascending, maybe another top contender for that. But just the incredible amount of versatility that it provides, all different kinds of primal decks play it, and it forces a lot of people to respect early aggression and early units out of decks you might not be used to, like some of these bigger Skycraig decks that we've got this weekend from Jez.
Yeah, and Jez looks prepared for that. We already talked about those bullseyes and also has a torch in hand, getting a sort of free card off of this Joe here. But Jez pretty much easily able to answer all the Batteries' threat so far. So you got to love Jez's position, especially with Batteries down to only 2 cards left in hand. As you mentioned, they took a redraw. As long as Jez keeps hitting power, it seemed like they're in the driver's seat of this one.
Yeah, and you see that the Plunk just continuing to pick up more cards for Jez. It's such a nice pairing with all of that cheap Skycraig interaction, Bullseye, Permafrost, Torch, Dazzle, no deck, and then even Jotun Hurler. No deck has more cheap ways to interact with aggressive units than the Skycraig decks we'll see today. For Batteries, a pretty nice pickup though. Picking up that Silverblade Intrusion pairs obviously fantastic with Kira, as we've seen over the years.
Yeah.
And against the Skycraig deck in particular, it's not just going to draw a card; it actually will probably keep the unit alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing a deck that has a lot of kill removal like that will definitely go a long way here. Also have the Enforcer there. The Silence not really a great effect right now necessarily. Just kind of pops that Aegis. Going to go with that Kira and hold up that Silverblade Intrusion. Always classic combo, as you mentioned. Kira plus Protection and Intrusion's one of the best ones you have there.
Yeah, and a really tricky decision for Batteries. They could have played the Valkyrie Enforcer to maybe potentially trade with the Plunk, not have to use the Silverblade Intrusion, just accept the trade. But they've decided to put this down, the Kira down right now. And look at that. Jez picked up a Edict of Shavka. It deals 6 damage to a Justice unit. But fortunately, Silverblade Intrusion just makes it invulnerable to damage this turn. And we drawing a card for playing
And we
the
draw
spell.
a card, and we get a 3/3 flyer for it as well. So lots of value off of that 1 card for Batteries. Yeah, it's not really what Jez wanted to see, but I'm not sure you can play around that, right? You got to get rid of that unit, so you got to throw something at it and hope they don't have it.
Yeah, if you could get a fast spell that could kill Kira, you could do a thing where you could like attack, and then if they play a spell in response to the
Hmm.
attack, you could respond with your kill effect, or just be willing to accept the trade if nothing happens. But yeah, things didn't really work out. We're getting some treasure troves down for Jez, but we're still like a little bit away, one more power away from getting that Serpent Hive going. But looks like we might be able to next turn and put two plunks into the air too.
Nice little alternate art primal sigil there. Nice.
Yeah, we some nice work available with Cold Hunt, taking advantage of our new hero frames. If you haven't played in a little while, if you see on Kira and Plunk, they've got these lovely little laurels that represents that these are heroes in the game. They're iconic characters, important to the world, and the people love it. And some cards in the game care about and value the fact that they're heroes and give them a bonus as a result. So now we'll see Valkyrie Enforcer. That Howling Peak Smuggler got silenced by the last one, so it's just going to pop the Aegis of the
Yeah.
Plunk.
Not the best use of it, but you do what you got to do. And importantly, here, it's another threat in the air, another thing that Jez is going to have to answer eventually. But like you said, we are getting closer to that Serpent Hive, and that'll be a big spell for Jez.
Yeah, it's pretty great against Valkyrie Enforcer, right? Like, just one Serpent Hive is going to potentially threaten to trade with both Valkyrie Enforcers, but we're actually going to go with Jack first.
Mm,
Uh, will we see both 4
yeah.
damage going at 2 units? We will. Batteries can keep the Kira alive with the Bubble Shield. It feels like that's got to be where it goes. I mean, you
Yeah,
get to draw a
I would
card.
assume so. Absolutely, get that card back, protect Akira. Yep, and that's what we're gonna see. Gonna
We
draw a
hunt as
Hojin
a
here.
pack.
Thanks for the sub, Cola. Nice to see you. So gonna protect the Kira again. Gonna draw another card.
Yeah, and we see on Kira, we are just one influence away from that 8 influence mode. When Kira attacks, give another attacking unit her strength and health. So batteries is really going to be hoping to draw some kind of justice influence next turn. It would mean that they could potentially attack in and really buff up either the Valkyrie Denouncer or the Hojin, depending upon which one they play. It feels really tough to get rid of this Kira if you're batteries. I mean, you're just
Yeah,
so
I don't
close
think
to getting
so.
it up to the last stage of her ascension.
All right, gonna draw Dazzle. No power available, but fortunately for Jez, Battery is missing out on a power as well. So Kira's gonna stay unultimated for now.
Batteries is
Alchemy
going
student.
to buff up the Valkyrie Enforcer up to a 4/4 lifesteal with
Sure.
that new contract unit Alchemy student.
Yeah, and that's a
Uh,
permanent buff, which is gonna be nice. Making that a 4/4, big difference here.
yeah, and I like the way that Batteries is diversifying their threats. It was starting to feel like they had just been whittled down to just Kira as the only important thing going on. But now with a 4/4 lifesteal, a Hojin, Jez has got a number of problems to deal with. It feels like this turn has got to involve the Serpent Hive. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are you really keeping Dazzle up for? And just playing a Wump, drawing a card, and holding up a Dazzle doesn't seem like it's impactful enough on this pretty crucial turn here. Jez down to 12.
yeah, Batteries has been doing a great job. I mean, it really looked like Jez had whittled them down. I mean, they hit with Plunk. They'd killed, completely wiped out the board. Batteries redrew down to 6 this game, but Batteries has just kept making progress. And look at this. So we see the Serpent Hive actually buffed up the Howling Peak Smuggler and the Jack flying this turn, not getting Wump into the action.
No, and only attacking with the Jet. Gonna keep the Smuggler back here.
Maybe they want Wump ready to be able to trade with the Kira so they don't have to use one of their serpents to block a
Sure,
Kira.
makes sense. Battery's just going to keep putting out threats. Valkyrie Denouncer here. I think the key thing keeping batteries in this game was those 2 protection spells that essentially ate two cards from Jez and drew cards off of Kira, helped them stay in this. But they're not out of the woods yet. I mean, Jez is doing a good job stabilizing here.
Let's take a quick peek at the market after drawing that Howling Peak Smuggler. We could bring back the Zhou.
Mm-hmm.
Helio is just
Yeah,
one more primal, and there's an insignia in hand, and then there's a mirror image too. So a lot of exciting things potentially going on.
absolutely.
We'll see where Jez wants to go. I mean, we could copy that Jack. It will retain its double damage, so you
Mm-hmm.
could. But no, we're going to start getting Helio, and this allows us to hold up Dazzle this turn.
Yep. and it's going to refresh the hand next turn, which is going to be huge. I mean, anytime you draw 4 cards and your opponent's at 1 is really going to help Jez. As long as you're stable, that's a great thing to do, and it looks like Jez has hit that stable point here. There's not really much batteries can do with what they have in hand and have on board.
This is a pretty cheeky attack by Jez. I mean, recognizing that there's not batteries really doesn't want to give up any of these units quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
Hojin hasn't gotten to use its renown ability.
All
And
right,
now
there's the
finally
Seed of
batteries,
Glory. Yep.
yeah, we finally got that 8th influence.
Little awkward though that you do need to attack with you basically need to throw away your Kira, right, in order to trigger that. But might be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very likely that Kira is going to die if it attacks.
All right, also going to give a unit +1/+1 in charge. Going to put that on the Denouncer. So now attacking with everything. Bunch of 4 attack units. Kira's going to trigger and put it on the Denouncer. The one with Revenge. Turn that into an 8/7 flyer. But definitely throwing away the Kira here, but time to do it. All right, we're going to stun the 8/7. That's a good place to start. Now we throw something in front of Kira. That's the next step.
Yeah, we could see Jack trade with Kira. Okay. And then a double block by the Howling Peak Smugglers.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to completely
Oof.
wipe out all of the big units that aren't stunned.
Yeah.
We are going to get to gain a bunch of health for batteries. But that dazzle was pretty big. It really felt like batteries was sort of counting on that 8/7, making the blocks a lot harder than they were.
Yeah. Yeah, and that 8/7 is still going to be a threat, but it's done for a little while, and we know that Jez is drawing 4 cards next turn, so those good blocks by Jez there to really stem the bleeding, and now they have time to reset, draw some cards, stabilize even more, find an answer for that 8/7, and it's not like Jez really cares about battery's life total. Like, yeah, you gain a bunch of health there, but that's not how Jez is winning this game. They're winning this game through card advantage and surviving long enough to put the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, Jez, the late game for the Skycrag deck in terms of drawing cards with Zos and Silexes and going into the market for Helio, this deck just keeps gassing back up, and it's
Yeah.
going to make life very hard for batteries. Um,
Strategy, survive long enough to be able to take over the late game with your raw card advantage. And there we see
and-
another Serpent Hive here. Now going attacking, and of course we know that Denouncer is stunned for another turn, so Jez sort of has freedom to attack here because batteries can't really attack back.
yeah, Jez has got to be careful, of course. A top deck Crown Watch Press Gang into a Trick Shot Ruffian, but that would still leave Helio there. And Jez is not even going to put down Plunk, is just going to play it sort of safe and get a
There's an
crafty
answer.
occultist down.
That's a great answer to a Valkyrie Denouncer.
Yeah, batteries doesn't really have a good way of overwhelming through units. So this is a thing that's going to be a problem for them in the matchup is Jez does have a decent amount of flyers. And so as a result, that makes those trick shot ruffians turns a lot harder. Jez, has full knowledge of batteries deck lists. And as a result, they can try to reliably leave back at least 1 or 2 flying blockers in the late game to prevent any sort of big turn.
All right, taking a look at Jez's deck list here on that Skycrag mid. Pretty classic Skycrag mid-range deck.
Yep, the 2 new big pickups that we've seen in sort of recent months are Bullseye, fantastic main deckable card that gives you interaction with relics. Plunk as an early threat that sort of allows you to be the aggressor in some matchups.
Yeah.
And then Serpent Hive, which is a really fantastic card, just does so many things between popping Aegis, creating multiple units against sweepers, giving things like Jack and Plunk flying. I mean, you're talking about 2 units which draw cards when they connect, and then Serpent Hive just does that very reliably. And with Inscribe, it's got a lot of consistency. This is one of the most consistent decks that we'll see in today's field.
Yeah, and this deck, one thing that stands out to me is something you just mentioned, that you're not always going to be the control deck. You're not always going to be the aggro deck. And sometimes we see decks that are really reliant on always having the same game plan. But in reality, that's not how these games play out. So I kind of like how Jez has the Plunk draw. The Plunk, Crafty Occultist, Smuggler, Jack can be a very aggressive draw. But as we saw in this past game, you also have a bunch of removal where you can just sit back and not be the aggressor, play defense for a while, and then take over your late game. It can kind of play a bunch of angles depending on the hand that gets drawn.
Yeah. So batteries just gives up the turn one alchemy student, doesn't want to have their power locked up on turn two. I imagine we're going to see them play Styre's Eyes and use that discard a card to play Lingering Influence, pick up another Justice Sigil, and get to Scout. A lot of value for that 2-cost 2/2 flyer. Meanwhile, really solid looking draw, a lot of cheap interaction for Jez.
Yeah, another solid starting hand here. 2 permafrost and a torch is going to go a long way at stemming the early bleeding, and then you've got that crafty to refill later. Seems like a solid start.
And interesting decision here in the early going by Jez, not playing either Permafrost or Torch, trying to potentially save that for some of the bigger threats like Valkyrie Enforcer and Kira's.
Now, Battery's build is a little bit interesting, right? Because when you normally see a Justice heavy deck with Kira, we're normally looking at the Huru Kira builds, right? That's sort of your default take, and we've seen that deck put up great results throughout the history. Now, Battery is taking a slightly different approach. A lot of the deck is similar to that, but has the fire influence instead, taking away a little bit of the Primal, a little bit of the Aegis protection, and going a slightly different route. What do you think maybe the advantages or disadvantages are taking the slightly different approach?
It seems like you get very reliably very big trick shot ruffians. You're getting to have even more consistent access to it by playing with Imperial Loyalist and playing with just a mostly mono faction deck. And then you are additionally you're not having to worry about playing as many copies of sort of spells which are hitting your own units, and you can just sort of play with cards that you think are the most likely to help you get through. One of the things I really like about this deck is just that it has Battlefront Dasher gives this deck so much flexibility in the late game as
Mm-hmm.
a bullet that you can get with both Loyalist and Press Gang and the Alchemy Student as well. It's really that package of one drops that is the defining feature of this deck versus the Huru deck.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Batteries with an interesting decision there, of course, with that Kenna attack, had the option to protect with Silverblade Intrusion, but that's not necessarily the best usage of your Silverblade there, of your combat trick. So decides to just let the unit die. Gonna hold that off for maybe after they have a chance to play the Kira, or have a maybe more impactful protection spell later on in this game.
Yeah, anytime you've got Kira going, and of course it's now going to be turned on with this 4 justice influence. When you
Mhm.
play a spell directly on Kira, draw a card. You're getting so much value out of it, and so I really like the way that Batteries has played this game. They've gotten Jez to use up some of their interaction
Yeah.
early, and now we've got Kira down with multiple copies of Silverblade Intrusion, and we could start going to work with that card.
Yeah, very patient by Batteries here. Crest of Fury, the draw for Jez. Good to keep hitting power. Has those interaction spells, but like you said, with 2 copies of the Intrusion in hand, Batteries has those answers.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Silverblade Intrusion is that it can't be dazzled. Dazzled can only hit things that cost more
Yeah.
than 1.
Yeah, a lot of spells here that are going to be thrown back and forth that cannot be dazzled. Yep, Silverblade Intrusion here. That's perfect play for Batteries, able to protect, draw a card, cycle that, get that card back, and put Jez down a card.
Yeah, and the next Silverblade Intrusion after this Justice symbol will also be picking us up a Valkyrie Denouncer. Meanwhile, Crafty Occultist doing its thing, drawing some cards.
All right, we got a Smuggler there, along with the Strategize, so Jez can be able to find more action here.
And Kenna's coming in.
Sure. Attack for 4. Got the 3/3 ground blocker, so send it in the air. As you
And
mentioned, has the symbol in hand, so can get 2 more green pips.
Yeah, this is a tricky turn for Batteries. They don't have any really obvious plays. They could just use the Trick Shot Ruffian to push some damage this
Yeah.
turn. If they attack and they have to use the Silverblade Intrusion here, they won't have it up for any kind of
Right.
torches or Edict of Shavkas on the following turn. And you don't love just sitting back while you're getting smacked for 4 in the air. You know how the Skycrag deck is going to continue to develop as well.
Right, and you don't want to just play out your 4-drop and then not have the Silverblade Intrusion up to protect your Kira, so a little bit awkward. Yeah, there's not really much you could do, but you don't, like you said, you don't want to sit back and do nothing, so you feel like you're priced into making a play. So I guess if you really wanted to make a play,
Wow. This was the
Leaving
risky
shields
line.
down.
Yeah. But it does put Jez in a funny spot here because the Torch could kill the Loyalist before it's been renowned, or it could kill the Kira.
Yeah. Yeah, given that opening though. All right, gonna play the Kenna out, take out the Kira. So Kira down. Battery's taking that risk. Jez is gonna make a pay for it.
One of the things that's really fun about Imperial Loyalist is that because you can sort of get it plays the unit as soon as you renown it and puts
Mm-hmm.
it into play immediately, you could potentially use that to get a fast trick shot ruffian and then in the middle
Mm.
of combat be pumping up something, or
Ooh.
be pumping up something that's not been blocked.
Yeah, that's a nice little synergy there. Because that's one of course, the downsides of the trick shot ruffian is that you can always jump block it. So not necessarily an instant win. Although a lot of times when we see it, it pretty much ends the game on the spot.
It does happen. Yeah, this is another tough spot for batteries. They could get the press gang and go shields down again. One of the combos that we might see batteries go to at some point is the Steyer's Eyes combo with Trickshot Ruffian. And what I'm referring to there is Steyer's Eyes can summon, discard a card to play a Crown Watch tactic,
Mm-hmm.
give a unit +3/+3 and lifesteal. And so, yeah, we're getting smacked by these Kennas, but we could potentially hit for a ton of damage.
Yeah, I was just about to say that I like how Jez has kept the pressure on to keep pushing. Like you're gonna shorten this clock pretty quickly, but you're right. Having this Crown Watch tactic to be able to bump up and have a huge
Wow, look at these big
gain a
brain
bunch of health.
plays. So we
Wow.
use Crown Watch tactic on the Loyalist, which is a 2-cost spell, which allows us to get a 2-cost unit from our deck. And we got a Kira. So
That's pretty
Kira's back
nice.
in action.
Kira's back, and now we've got power up to be able to protect it. Oh, nice little turn here for batteries, turning things around. Also gain 7 health off this attack.
Yeah, and anytime a Kira is in the mix, Jez is going to feel a lot more nervous
Yeah.
because that 8 influence mode, the amount of value that we can get from drawing cards, there's just going to be a lot more danger that's going to be going on. Now, Jez, for their turn, did pick up a Primal Sigil. That's big because that allows them to potentially go Howling Peak Smuggler, go into the
Mm-hmm.
market, get an Edict of Shavka, and play it. Um, we could take a quick peek once again. They've
Yeah.
got that Edict, Mirror Image, Helio, Ruin, and Obstructive Flicker. So a couple of nice options, but between Mirror Image and Edict of Shavka, I mean, Mirror Imaging next turn, Akenna is also going to be fantastic. They're going to kick things off, though, with a Torch on Kira. It's going to sort of define the terms of this turn.
All right, no surprise here seeing the intrusion come from batteries. Got to protect that Kira, draw a card, and get an answer for it. And that does protect that Kira for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, and it makes the Steyer's Eyes also invulnerable to damage. So now attacking with either of the Kennas has become a lot less attractive. You
Yeah.
could dazzle the Steyer's Eyes if you really wanted to push damage, but
I do like that Jez did that first, though. Just get that out of the way, force battery's hand before you attack, and risk potentially getting blown out by anything. Just let's put our cards on the table here and make sure we know what's going on before I make any tough decision.
right. And now we are going to see Howling Peak Smuggler putting back the Dazzle or the Strategize. Putting away the Strategize, getting a
Get
mirror
that
image. Yeah, and I think we're going to see Jez just try to really load up with flyers. It's going to make this very hard for batteries. So if we ever get to a point where Kira gets attacking, gets going, and
Ah.
you get Trick Shot Ruffian, for instance, how are you planning on dealing with that unit?
Absolutely, and battery's only 1 pip away. Has that 7 justice influence. Going to play out this denouncer. Batteries draws another justice influence. Doesn't matter from where. That Kira is fully pumped up. So we're going to see the mirror image on the Kenna, like you said. That's a 3rd copy of Kenna here. Refresh that killer. No
Yeah.
protection for Kira this time, though.
Yeah, and Jez kind of knew that that was going to work out because really, once they played their mirror image and batteries didn't try to do something in response or even have the option, you
Yeah.
kind of knew it was going to work. So this attack could be met with a double block, but if that did happen, Jez could stun one of the units with Dazzle.
Hmm.
This is a tough spot for batteries because it's very tempting to try to get rid of one of
Sure
these
is.
Kennas.
Yeah.
It's not obvious Jez would or wouldn't make this attack if they didn't have the dazzle, so you can't assume they do.
All right, gonna get that double block. And again, Battery's taking that risky play. Is gonna get punished with this dazzle. Gonna stun the 3/3, eat the 2/2, and keep the Kenna alive. Here's that 8th Justice Pit, but unfortunately, Kira is gone by the wayside, so not as important now. Although, yeah, your hand awkward a little bit. Gonna start with that Valkyrie Enforcer. Silence one of the Kennas, but all that really does is knock it out of the air. One less flying threat, I guess.
Yeah, and Batteries has the press gang. They can go get a trick shot ruffian at any time. And, Jez is at 12, Batteries is at 24. Batteries is or Jez is now down to just 2 flyers, and with Batteries having 2, it's not going to be easy for Jez to be able to just gear up for an attack within in the air.
Although similarly to the last game, it's interesting that Jez has, even on the ground, Jez has these attacks where Jez can just say, okay, I'm just going to keep attacking. Like, go ahead, block, trade some of your units away if you want. Because there's not really amazing blocks on Battery's side, even on the
No.
ground.
No, I mean on the ground you could double block the silence Kenna with the Stire's Eyes, the Imperial Recruiter.
Right.
Keep in mind, the Kenna does have an ultimate. When you have hit the enemy player with a unit 5 times, you get to draw a spell from your void. This Kenna's at 4 now. This Kenna's also at 4.
Wow.
The next unit that just connects, they're going to get to start drawing back spells like a torch or a mirror image. So there's real issues coming for Batteries, even just beyond how they're going to ever punch through lethal damage here.
And with Batteries at 13, a hit from a Kenna or two, plus a couple 4 damage torches could go face and end this real fast. All right, gonna go get that trick shot ruffian. +8/+8 on one of the flyers. That's
I'm a little surprised it went on the revenge one, and because that feels like the one we would want to have better back to block. Now Jez is like, gotta think this carefully. Do I actually go to 1 here? And they're not. They're going to chump with one of the Kennas. That does mean that it's no longer a guarantee that Jez is going to be able to push through with Kenna next turn.
Because Batteries has that flying jump blocker.
Right. And also, if they were to attack in the air with that flyer, say they like permafrost that Valkyrie Enforcer, now you're down to potentially, I guess. Well, actually, if you permafrost the Enforcer, pick up a mirror image, that gets pretty gross pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is. I don't love Battery's chances here. Jez has just shown a real strong understanding of the matchup and done a very nice job at sort of picking apart those pieces that Batteries has been looking to sort of set up to have that sort of big combo aggro finish.
All right, here we see, as you said, we're going to permafrost the blocker, which means this Kenna is getting through no matter what, and that is going to be the 5th attack, 5th time doing damage, so we're going to get to draw a spell from the void.
I think if I'm Batteries, I'm blocking that press gang onto the occultist. The press gang coming back immediately feels like one of your better chances right now.
And it happens. We have definitely seen that happen in high level play before.
1 out of 10 times.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, knocking the top of the deck here for Batteries. But here, Jez is going to get a rebuy, like you said, going to get that mirror image. Fire it off on a Kenna, get another Kenna.
Yep.
Well, if it's not the first one that kills you, how about the 4th and 5th ones?
All right, so there are 2 revenge units now floating at the top of the deck. We picked up a Silverblade Intrusion.
Not sure that helps that much here.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, you could use one like right now to pick up a Denouncer. That way you have a blocker. You are sort of almost dead in the air next turn. You're going to go to 1. But it's such a bad play in a lot of ways.
Yeah, just changing that, just trading that in for a 3/3 flyer, that's just going to chump block. You're not really getting ahead there, but it could buy you a turn.
Yeah. So they're going to, and that is pretty much going to do it here.
I think that's just game.
Yeah, I mean, Jez can look through, probably knows Battery's deck pretty well at this point, and knows I don't think there is a card here. None of like the bubble shield. I mean, there's no primal influence.
Right.
One thing about not being a Huru Kira deck, but even if it were, they could go into the market and pick up a an Edict of
Yeah.
Shavka, so which can't be negated or stopped by Aegis.
Yeah, and that's what Jez is thinking right here. Is all right. What can batteries have that can stop me from just winning the game right here?
I mean, getting Edict of Shavka is a pretty clean one.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, you might miss that one copy of like old school Protect just sitting in the deck, but Jez is feeling good about it. They're gonna get their Jack down. Howling Peak Smuggler is gonna go away, and Batteries is gonna get knocked out here in round number 1. So a nice start to the day for Jez. Now, keep in mind, Batteries is not dead. We are
Yeah.
playing 5 rounds of Swiss here today. They are going to be uphill though, as they'll probably need to win out.
Yeah, and their
Or
tiebreakers aren't going to be great. We've seen that in the past. We've done
yep.
several 5-round Swiss tournaments, and you have to be at least 3-2. Anything less than 3-2 is definitely not going to make it. 4-1s are usually sitting pretty good, and then it really depends on those tiebreakers to see which 3-2s. And dropping your first round means your tiebreakers aren't going to be that great. So yeah, if you're in battery seat, you're really going to want to push for that 4-1.
All right, so let's find another deck to watch, check out. We could see what. Let's see what Gurg APM's up to. They've always got something. Looks like they got a big ol' Combre deck this weekend, so I'm gonna check out them
Do
versus
it.
Iplongo.
All right, let's head down and watch them.
Yeah, so we're in game 3 here. Iplongo's playing Elysian Spells. So we're gonna see cards like Master Conjurer, Draw Ascending, and up against the big old Combre Relics deck. We're taking down a Speaking Circle right now. The good news for Gurg APM is Stormhall Plating is going to do some work on this board.
Yeah, you always got, whenever you jump into these games, it takes a minute to to see where we're at, because it does look like if Longnose got a great board here, but like you said, that plating's going to help. Ooh, Speaking Circle as well. Where are we at on Speaking Circle these days? I feel like that's one of the cards that is really funny. It first gets introduced and it's completely broken, it dominates everything, and then it kind of goes away for a while, and you're like, oh, that card's not great right now, and then here it is again in Combre. So we'll have to see if today is a Speaking Circle's really good day, or Speaking Circle's an expensive do nothing today.
Yeah,
where we're at on that
it's a
spectrum.
funny card, right? Well, and it also depends every new release we're making new spells which cost 3 or less.
That's true. Absolutely true.
I mean, Saloon Massacre and some
GRGAPM,
of the
by
other
the way.
contract ones let you get a big bonus.
Mhm. Our opponent here, 26 day 2 qualification. So that's pretty impressive. 26 day 2s for Gurg APM.
Yeah, in terms of any list of the most accomplished players who are not currently qualified for Worlds, Gurg APM is going to need to be on that. And they got a looks like they got a real shot right now. This is a close game, though. We are in game number 3 here. We're going back into the market and picking up.
Sodi Spell Shaper.
Yeah.
2 Aegis units. 2 nice targets for that.
Yeah, there's really no guarantee, though, of there being a unit to put that thing on, because right now it's a little hard to see, but we do have a 7/3 Stormhawk plating, so we can kill both of these units. So we're going to start things off with that Speaking Circle. And
All right, let's see.
setting the agenda right now, Perilous
Research. That's a nice one.
Yeah,
Live by the circle, die by the circle, and that's a pretty good one.
Varus choice. I mean, if we get Builder's Decree.
Those are 3 amazing hits off of Speaking Circle.
We literally hit 2 spells that Gurg APM just put into their deck.
You just naturally play those cards in this deck.
Actually, we have no copies of Perilous Research this weekend in the starting deck, but Speaking Circle was like, you know what? I really think you should play with that. My gosh, the Varus choice dealing with the Helio before it draws any cards. I mean, that was about as bad as it could have gone.
Oh, wow. This game has completely turned around in this one turn. Huge hits off of that Speaking Circle. I guess today is a good day for the circle.
Yeah, we got a decree here, right?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, Gurg APM seems in great shape. Once that
Oh, going to the research. There's only one relic in hand. I guess there's a Pillar of Progress. You could play that one first.
Yeah, we're gonna see that second copy Pillar of Progress there.
I mean, this is going to do a nice job of baiting out the Dazzle
Mhm.
potentially. Oh, we can even enter the monastery? Sure. Draw 2 Justice Sigils, play one of them, play the other. Perilous Alarming Findings now. The created card off of that Perilous Research.
Yeah, it's only 2/3/3s, but there you go. Builder's Decree and then a Vestige as well.
I guess Iblongo knows about the Builder's Decree on the speaking circle,
Yeah,
so they decided they had to let that go because they just couldn't win if that Builder's Decree went off and made multiple 14/14s.
makes sense.
We literally would have gotten to make 3 this turn.
Yeah,
Now, Gurgay PM could just not. Yeah, so they actually left one Sentinel on the table. That way
sure.
they could still play another card this turn.
Because you feel like they have to dazzle it, so all you have to do is really amplify it once there,
Yeah.
force the dazzle out of Iplogno's hand, and use the rest of your power for something else. But it's tough because Iplogno, we got Queen of Glass coming here, and that's going to be tough too. Do have an equivocate to deal with some things, but I'm not sure Queen of Glass is really what you want to equivocate.
All right. Now, Dural Ascending offers a lot of potential here because that card combined with a Sodi Spell Shaper
Hmm.
means we could start drawing cards. Though actually played the. I guess they wanted to hold up the equivocate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I guess this allows you to can eat one of the sand crawlers in combat.
Yeah, yeah. They knew about the Queen of Glass coming, and the Queen of Glass means all of your units can't be killed while you have the Queen of Glass. She also makes all of your units awoken, and she herself's pretty dope. Regen,
Yeah.
unblockable, pretty big endgame piece. Now, Gurgay PM's got a lot of ways they can go. They've got that Age Worn Vestige in hand. We can keep that in mind.
Start with the gemstone.
And they got the Burden.
Rodolph's
Oh,
Burden. Ooh. That's pretty good. Put a unit or relic on the bottom of his owner's deck. If Longno gonna fire off that equivocate, get that Queen of Glass out of here. But that's gonna flip into a Shoal Dredger. Okay.
yeah, not the most 7 of 7 card
Yeah,
unit,
could have been
but
could have been worse.
oh yeah. Now, what's this learned
With
imitator?
yeah, imitator.
Imitator going to turn into
Back
a
another
Dural Ascending.
Dural. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Makes sense. Another Dural here.
Man, this Builder's Decree is going to really punish Iplogno for not playing the Sodi Spell Shaper. But you can understand, like, if they played the Sodi Spell Shaper, maybe the Age Worn Vestige comes down and just harsh rules the board.
Yeah.
So there was really no good way for Iplogno to play this.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt. A pair of 15/15s. Got the twins here. And Sodi Spell Shaper knocked out. And the weapons just
Oh,
get.
the Age Worn
Oh,
Vestige kills it because of those Pillar of Progresses. Those relics, yeah, whenever you play a relic weapon, they get +1 strength. So,
all
phew.
right. Well, congrats to Gerg APM taking that one 2-1 over Iplong. No, that was impressive. It looked like it was going the other direction when we first hopped in, but quick turnaround and completely took that game over. Nice hits off a speaking circle.
Yeah, I mean, about as perfect as it gets. I mean, what you're always when you play Speaking Circle in that Combre deck, you're always kind of hoping for Equalize, but
Yeah.
that was also a fantastic set of options. And that actually looks like that was the last match of the first round of today. So
Right.
for our players, they got 4 more rounds to go to try to make it to that top 8. Looks if we can. I've got the standings up on my screen.
Yeah. Let's
If we could
see
take
if
a
we
quick
can.
peek.
We sure can. Take a look. All right. There we go.
Whoops, I clicked away. Let me get back here.
Let's take a look
So
at those.
we got all these are the players who won their first round, and then the unfortunate folks who've got some work to do, and we're only seeing the top 20. So there's a few folks.
Yeah. How many players do we have today? You mentioned.
So we've got 23 players. So one player each round will be getting a bye. That'll be going to a player at the bottom of our standings, and then for the other 22 players. They'll be playing each round for the next 5 rounds. We'll cut to our top 8, and then we'll get right into the top 8.
All right,
So we could take a few minutes here before we get the next round started.
let's do it. All right, we will head to a very short break, everyone, real quick. We'll be right back as we get round 2 set up. Back with round 2 of the LCQ. See you all in just a minute.